Right. So we hear all the time about, the bad things, the things we really shouldn't be doing for our health.
Right.
But what about those kind of everyday things, the ones that seem totally harmless on the surface?
Yeah.
Today, we're going to take a deep dive into one of those potentially surprising areas.
Okay.
We're looking at some possible dangers that might be lurking in something a lot of us reach for pretty regularly, energy drinks.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this exploration is sparked by a report we saw just yesterday in the Daily Mail Online, March 24th, 2025.
Oh, wow. So this is really recent.
Yeah, hot off the press.
Okay, cool.
And it's a pretty concerning story. This article focuses on a mother who believes energy drinks actually played a critical role in the death of her daughter,
Oh, wow.
who was only 28 years old and seemingly very fit.
Really?
So beyond this, obviously tragic personal story, the article also kind of highlights a growing unease in the scientific community about the impact of these drinks on cardiovascular health.
Yeah. I mean, we hear things, kind of whispers and murmurs, but when you start seeing these individual stories,
Exactly.
it really makes you wonder what's going on.
Yeah, so for this deep dive, we really want to kind of unpack this reported connection.
Hmm?
What does the science actually say? Are there real risks here? And what can we learn from, the specific experiences that were shared in this article?
Sounds good.
So let's start with the story itself, this incredibly sad case of Katie Donnell.
Right.
So Katie was a 28-year-old teacher living in Florida.
Oh, yeah?
And from what the article says, she was really the picture of health. Described as super healthy, a real gym bunny fitness was clearly a priority for her.
Mm.
It seems like energy drinks were a pretty big part of her routine as well,
Uh-huh.
almost like a fuel source for her active lifestyle. The article says that she used a caffeine supplement and could drink up to 3 energy drinks every single day,
Wow.
plus the occasional coffee.
Oh, my goodness.
And her boyfriend even mentioned that she'd buy a 4-pack of energy drinks every 2 or 3 days.
So it was definitely a habit.
It seems like more than just a casual thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And apparently her friends rarely saw her without one.
Oh, wow.
And when her mother went through her car afterwards, she found at least 3 or 4 empty cans in there.
Yeah, that's a lot of energy drinks.
It suggests a really consistent and probably significant intake.
Yeah.
And then in August 2021, something unthinkable happened.
What happened?
Katie was with some friends just hanging out, and she collapsed.
Oh, no.
Her eyes rolled back, and at first they thought maybe it was a stroke.
Right?
But tragically, it turned out to be a heart attack.
Oh, gosh.
Her mother actually shared some really heartbreaking details about the emergency response.
Yeah?
The paramedics really struggled to intubate Katie.
Oh, no.
And as a result, she was without oxygen for a pretty critical period of time,
Wow.
which led to some severe brain damage.
Oh, my goodness.
And despite all their efforts working on her for over 3 hours, she never regained consciousness.
That's so sad.
She remained in a coma for 10 days, just a devastating time for her family.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And ultimately, they were faced with this incredibly difficult decision
Oh, gosh.
to turn off her life support.
Wow.
Her mother mentioned that when the doctors tried to bring her out of the coma, Katie started having seizures,
Oh.
and her body just began to shut down.
Oh, that's awful.
It's just an unimaginable loss for any family.
It really is.
And understandably, Katie's mother, Lori Barronin, has very strong feelings about this.
I bet.
While the doctors didn't officially list energy drinks as the cause of death, Lori is absolutely convinced that her daughter's frequent use of them is what triggered this fatal heart attack. She even mentioned that the doctors had said they'd seen similar cases
Really?
involving pre-workout supplements and energy drink consumption.
So there might be a pattern.
Yeah, and it makes you think about Katie's pre-workout habits, too.
Right.
Because her mother mentioned she started every single day with a supplement that had about the same amount of caffeine as an energy drink. And she used this to fuel her 5 a.m. workouts.
So she was starting her day with a pretty big dose of caffeine.
Yeah, it wasn't just the multiple energy drinks later in the day.
Right.
She was already starting out with a lot.
Wow. You do have to wonder about the cumulative effect of that.
I know. And Lori also mentioned another concerning thing that she had observed in her daughter.
What was that?
She said that Katie had this horrible anxiety,
Oh, wow.
which she also believes was linked to all the energy drinks.
That's really interesting.
It makes you think about potential effects beyond just the heart.
Right. Maybe a broader physiological impact.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more than just a quick energy boost, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it really makes you stop and think about these drinks that we kind of take for granted.
For sure.
Now, the article doesn't just stop with this personal story. It also looks at the science.
Okay.
the scientific understanding of the risks associated with energy drinks.
So what are the experts saying about the general cardiovascular concerns related to caffeine?
Well, generally, high levels of caffeine are known to impact the cardiovascular system in several ways.
Okay.
The article mentions increased blood pressure,
Go ahead.
possible heart arrhythmias, which are irregularities in the heart's rhythm, and in severe cases, a higher risk of heart attack, especially with excessive caffeine consumption.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
So how do the amounts of caffeine in energy drinks stack up against the recommended daily limits?
That's a good question.
What are those guidelines?
So the article highlights that for adolescents, the recommended daily limit is around 100 milligrams of caffeine.
Oh,
And for adults, it's about 400 milligrams.
gotcha.
And then when you look at some energy drinks, it's pretty startling.
Mm-hmm.
In the UK, some have over 300 milligrams per can.
Oh,
And in the US, it can be even higher, some exceeding 500 milligrams.
so you could be way over the limit with just one drink.
Exactly. And if you're having multiple drinks like Katie was, you're way past that.
It's not just the caffeine content either, right? The article mentions other ingredients in these energy drinks that could also be contributing to these problems.
Yeah. There are other things in there that we need to be aware of.
Like what?
Well, one they talk about specifically is taurine.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It's an amino acid that's often added to energy drinks.
Uh-huh.
And some research suggests that, especially when combined with a lot of caffeine, it could mess with your heart rate.
Really?
Yeah, potentially even disrupt the normal electrical activity of your heart.
Oh, wow.
It's not totally clear yet how all these different ingredients interact with each other.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's an area where we need more research for sure.
The article also talks about some specific research that sheds light on these potential danger.
Like what kind of research?
Well, there's this study from the Mayo Clinic.
Oh, the Mayo Clinic.
Okay.
What did they find?
They looked at 144 people who had survived cardiac arrest.
Okay.
And what they found was that 7 of them had had an energy drink shortly before their cardiac event.
Yeah, so based on that, the scientists involved felt it was really important to warn people,
Wow.
especially people who might have undiagnosed heart conditions.
That's a good point. People might be vulnerable and not even know it.
Exact.
The article also mentions another really sad case, Zach Doran.
Oh, yeah. What happened to him?
He was an 18-year-old high school student in Oklahoma,
Okay.
and he was apparently in excellent health. But tragically, he had a fatal heart attack while he was at the gym.
Oh, my goodness.
This was back in August 2024.
Wow. So just last year.
Yeah, his girlfriend said that he was the healthiest person she knew,
Okay.
but she believes it was his use of pre-workout supplements and energy drinks that caused it.
That's so sad.
It's another one of these stories that really makes you think.
Definitely.
And it seems like there's a lot of evidence beyond these individual cases that points to the cardiovascular risks of energy drinks.
What kind of evidence?
The article mentioned the study from 2018. So this study found that even having just one energy drink could increase your risk of a heart attack and stroke,
Really?
and that this risk could increase within just 90 minutes.
Wow. So it's a pretty immediate effect.
Yeah.
That's concerning.
So researchers at the University of Texas at Houston found that these drinks can cause your blood vessels to narrow, which obviously restricts blood flow to your vital organs.
That makes sense.
And they think this is probably due to the combination of ingredients in the drinks, like the caffeine, the taurine, the sugar, and all those herbal components.
So it's not just one thing, it's the whole mix.
Right. It's pretty complex.
So we've got these individual stories, these scientific studies.
Right.
It makes you wonder, how are people responding to all of this?
Well, the article talks about some potential government action in the UK.
Oh, what are they doing?
The Labour Party over there has included a proposal in their manifesto to ban the sale of high caffeine energy drinks to anyone under 16.
So they're taking it seriously.
It seems like they're recognizing the potential harm, especially for younger people.
Whose bodies are still developing.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And it's interesting because even before any kind of government ban, a lot of retailers in the UK are already taking action.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of the big supermarkets have these voluntary policies where they don't sell these high caffeine energy drinks to teenagers.
So they're being proactive.
Yeah, maybe there's growing awareness.
A sense of responsibility.
Right.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
And going back to Katie's mother, Lori Barron, she's become a real advocate.
I can imagine.
She's urging people to avoid these energy drinks. She even calls them deadly.
Wow.
And she's calling for a complete ban on their sale.
She doesn't want anyone else to go through what she's gone through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She really wants to highlight these potential consequences and the impact it's had on her family.
It must be so hard for her.
And the article even says that she'll go up to people she sees with energy drinks
Really?
and warn them about the risks.
Wow, she's really committed to this. Yeah.
It's really powerful.
It shows how a personal tragedy can really motivate someone.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways here?
Well, the most important thing is obviously the tragic story of Katie Donnell
Right.
and her mother's belief that this was a direct result of her energy drink habit.
Uh-huh.
And then there's all the scientific evidence that backs up those concerns.
All the research about the cardiovascular risks of the caffeine and other ingredients.
Exactly.
And then the fact that this is starting to lead to some action in terms of regulation and public awareness.
Right. We've got the proposed ban in the UK and people like Lori speaking out.
So it's becoming a bigger issue.
Hopefully this has given you a good overview of the potential risks of energy drinks.
A lot to think about.
It's a really complex issue.
It is.
And it raises some important questions.
What kind of questions?
What does this mean for our own personal choices?
Right. Should we be drinking these things?
And what about the accessibility of these drinks? Should there be more regulation?
Those are good questions.
And what about the long-term effects?
Yeah, we've heard about some immediate risks.
Right? What happens if you drink these things for years and years?
It's definitely something we need to look into more.
Hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
Absolutely a lot to consider.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.